Hello, friends. It's Katie back with another episode of my vlog and another Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. I did miss the Sunday Roundup last week. As I said in my post, I actually stayed up so late on Saturday night last week that I was way too tired to do a vlog on Sunday. And the reason why I stayed up so late on Saturday night was yet another small local independent movie theater here in Portland was reopening after COVID. And at the Cinemagic Theater here in town, we got to see, as part of their soft reopening, a incredible John Carpenter double bill, They Live and The Thing. So, in case you guys don't know, these are like two of my favorite movies from one of my very favorite directors. I love both of them. I will watch both of them basically anytime I get an opportunity to see them. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen them. And anytime I get an opportunity to see one of these movies in the theater, I jump at it as quickly as I possibly can. So Sean and I were actually driving down the street and I passed the Cinemagic Theater and I screamed when I saw the announcement on the marquee and was like, we have to go see that. So we did, and it was incredible. What to say about these films? Both of them are absolutely perfect, 10 out of 10, required viewing, just absolutely stunners. Let's see, they showed They Live first, even though it's the one that's chronologically second, so I'll talk about that one first. They Live, of course, is from 88, starring Rowdy Roddy Piper, R.I.P. Roddy Piper, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and Keith David, who is also in The Thing. It's an incredible sci-fi action flick that, of course, if you don't know the story, Roddy Piper is a drifter who comes to town. He starts hanging out at this homeless camp. He gets kind of, involved with these folks that are helping the homeless people at this camp who are also affiliated with a local church. And he sneaks into the church and finds out there's more going on than he thinks. And it's not simply a homeless camp, but they have developed these special sunglasses that let you see reality unfiltered. There's like a beam that I'm not going to say who's doing it. Someone is beaming a beam out across the city and making it so that people can't see what reality really looks like. And these sunglasses make it so that you can see what reality really looks like. The first scene where he puts them on in the movie and he's walking around downtown and he's looking at all of the billboards and posters and covers of magazines. And first he's looking with the sunglasses on, and then he takes them off and he puts them back on, takes them off. And it's like a regular looking billboard that's just like, check out this brand of beer or tequila or whatever. When he puts the sunglasses on, it becomes this stark black and white that just says like consume or marry and reproduce or obey or whatever, with the idea being that we're constantly being subjected to these subliminal messages that are telling us how to live our lives. So the rest of the movie is Roddy's character, trying to figure out how to fight back against the people who are doing this, and trying to engage Keith David's character, who's another dude who's been hanging out at this homeless camp. And the centerpiece of the movie is this like 5-minute, 6-minute long alleyway fight between Piper and David that is just phenomenal. It's got to be one of the greatest fight scenes ever done in a movie. Of course, because Rowdy Roddy Piper has a wrestling background, it's incredibly well done. He, just really sells the entire thing. He's also incredible at, making faces and basically doing pantomime, because that's what he had to do in the ring to convey the storylines of wrestling. So, incredible movie. I'm not going to say more about the plot. If you've never seen They Live, do yourself a favor and see it as soon as you possibly can. Incredibly important message for 1988. Incredibly important message for 2021. Totally required viewing. Then immediately after that, well, not immediately, we had actually a cool half hour of like retro movie trailers in between the two movies, which was pretty fun. And then we got to watch The Thing, which is it's up there in my top 5 movies of all time. It's definitely my favorite movie that has no women in it. It's such an incredible film. It is beyond 10 out of 10. This one goes up to 11. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Beyond required viewing. This one is, I don't know how you could be more than required, but like maybe punish people who haven't seen it. I don't know. Like one of the greatest movies ever made in the history of cinema. Starring Kurt Russell, Keith David from the other movie, Wilford Brimley, Richard Dysart, and a whole bunch of other guys. And they are at a remote research station in Antarctica. And the movie opens with a helicopter from the Norwegian research station coming through, and the Norwegians are shooting at a dog. And then they crash the helicopter, and there's a big fiery fireball. And our guys at the American research station are like, what the hell just happened? And they go out there and scoop the dog and bring him into their encampment. And little do they know, it's not really a dog, it's the Thing, which turns out, well, I'm not going to tell you what it turns out to be because I really, really want you guys to see this movie. But turns out to be a lot more than they bargained for. Let's just put it that way. This is an incredible sci-fi horror film. Like I said, it's in my top 5 of all time. It's just one of the most incredible movies I've ever seen in my life. One of the things that makes it so incredible is the special effects. The creature effects done by Rob Bottin, who was super young, I think like 21, 22 years old when he did the effects for this movie. They still hold up incredibly well. There's a couple of like tiny cheesy moments, but for the most part, all of the gore and horror and body horror type of stuff that's going on in this movie is it's just a visual total standout. It's incredible. All these years later, it just still looks as good as the day that it came out. I'm at a loss for words about this film because it's just that good. Do yourself a favor. If you've never seen The Thing, watch it immediately. I do like to watch it in the summer because it is such a cold feeling movie because it takes place in Antarctica. It's got this kind of reversal feeling. So it's a really fun one to watch on a very hot day. But it's also a really fun one to watch in the dead of winter. Like if you live in a place where it doesn't get snow very often, it's a fun treat to watch The Thing on a snow day because then you kind of match it with that. So I'll stop going off about these movies. They're incredible. Both of them just total must see. We'll give They Live 10 out of 10, and we'll go ahead and give The Thing 11 out of 10. You guys got to see them if you've never seen them. And again, if you haven't seen them recently, just watch them again because they're both that good. What else did we watch this week besides that incredible double bill? I mean, like maybe one of the greatest double bills I've ever seen in my life. We also took a turn over to France this week. Sean has been working on the next issue of Die Wurst, his Dungeon Degenerates zine. And in this new issue, he is profiling Junet et Caro. That is Jean-Pierre Junet and Marc Caro, who you might know as the creators of Delicatessen, City of Lost Children, and probably their most popular film, Amélie. So Sean is doing a feature on them and wanted to do some more research and watch some more of their movies. So we actually have watched one from each of them. We watched Micmacs, which was directed by Junet, and that came out in 2009. And then we watched Dante 01, which is directed by Caro, and that one came out in 2008. And it was pretty interesting to watch 2 films made by these 2 guys who are normally partners, and here they are working independently. And Sean kind of said something to me before we watched these movies, which is, he said in his research, he kind of feels like the way the partnership works is Junet is the storyteller and Caro is the like visual visionary. And it really played out that way across these 2 movies because Micmacs, the one that's directed by Junet, has the really solid story that really takes you along through the story. It's a comedy. It's kind of a satire of the global arms trade. The main character, his dad was killed by a landmine, and then he gets shot at his work when he's working at like a video rental store. And he proceeds to fall in with this kind of crazy crew of characters, and he wants to get back at the, arms dealers who basically wrecked his life. And it's very funny, and it's got a great story that really brings you through the story, or he really brings you through the story. It's visually interesting, but not as interesting as Dante 01. Now, Dante 01 is like a sci-fi film about prisoners in a outer space psych ward. Like it's like these psychiatric prisoners in a floating satellite prison that's like a for-profit prison run by like a pharmaceutical company, and they're doing testing on the psych prisoners. And that one looks incredible. It's got some really interesting ideas, but the storytelling isn't as good as on Micmacs. So I think that Sean's definitely right that that's kind of how this partnership gels. And I would say for me, the movies where they're working together, again, like Delicatessen and City of Lost Children, really, really incredible. And then, you know, watching their independent fare, it's just not as good. And I don't know if they can't make movies by themselves. I mean, I don't want to be that extreme about it, but there's definitely a huge, huge difference between watching something that these two guys have worked on together versus watching some of their separate work. I will say, if you enjoyed their work, if you like City of Lost Children, definitely check out both of these movies. They're both interesting, and they both, you know, they really kind of piqued my curiosity in different ways. But yeah, Micmacs is way better on the storytelling, and Dante 01 is way better on kind of the world creation and the visual sensibilities of that world, if you will. Let's see, what else did we watch in the last 2 weeks? Two different Disney animated features, both directed by Wolfgang Reitherman. We watched Sleeping Beauty from 1959 and The Jungle Book from 1967. Sleeping Beauty is my favorite Disney animated film, probably my favorite Disney film of all time. Maleficent is the greatest Disney villain of all time. And gosh, I mean, that film is just, you know, between the medieval styling of the whole thing, between the color work, the music, of course, based on Tchaikovsky's ballet. It's just an incredible piece. It's really, really great. Every time I watch it, I feel like, oh God, this movie is just way out of its own league, if that makes sense. It's like you got sort of Disney movies going along, and then it's like, whew, Sleeping Beauty is like way better than a lot of the other ones that kind of came right before it. I will say I noted this time the climactic scene is very, very short. And Prince Philip gets a dumb amount of help from those fairies. I feel like he should have been allowed to like fight and do battle on his own quite a bit more than he does in the movie. But, you know, they're near the end. They've got to, you know, maybe rush for time or something. I would have cut the, there's the Scumps scene where the two kings are like drinking together and they have this whole song about what they're drinking to. And it seems like a total waste of time in terms of the narrative. And I would way rather have that extra time be on the last battle scene with Maleficent. But I didn't make this movie, so I don't get to call the shots. And then The Jungle Book, a stone cold classic. I feel like a lot of people haven't seen this one. For some reason, my mom had never seen it, which was pretty wild to me. She still hasn't. I'm recommending again, Mom, that you watch The Jungle Book. Of course, this is based on Rudyard Kipling's Mowgli stories about a boy who's basically raised in the jungle by wolves and other animals. And Shere Khan, the tiger, comes back to the jungle, and all of the animals are very concerned that Shere Khan is going to kill him. And so he's got to be kind of pushed back to the human village, is the main narrative there. The narrative itself is a little bit weak in The Jungle Book, but the real bright point is kind of all of the different little vignettes of Mowgli moving through the jungle and meeting all of the different animals and all of their different personalities and songs that they sing, and ways that they kind of carry the story. My favorite part personally is the scene with Louis Prima as King Louis singing I Want to Be Like You. I think it's the standout number in the movie. There's a bunch of other good songs, but that song is just so much better than the other ones. It really stands out for me. The kids loved the Beatles-esque vultures. They were their favorite part. So totally fun there. If for some reason you've never seen either of those animated classics, highly recommended. And then speaking of animated classics, we are still working our way through the Studio Ghibli catalog, and we watched Laputa, Castle in the Sky from 1986, of course, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. This one's really fun. It's a great, fantasy adventure. You've got a floating castle, you've got giant robots, you've got air pirates. There's a whole lot to love about this one. I won't go into plot details. I will say it is Jimmy and Henry's favorite Ghibli movie. They both said this one is their favorite. So if their votes mean anything to you and you've never seen Laputa, I would definitely check this one out. Also, of note, this is the movie that Miyazaki made right before Totoro. So if you're interested in kind of the chronology of a director and you've seen Totoro but haven't seen Laputa, I would definitely recommend seeing this one just to kind of get your chronology of his work in order. And it adds a lot to kind of understand that in there, aside from the fact that it's just a great movie. So highly recommended on that one. And then what else did we watch this week? I got to look at my notes. We've watched so many movies. I finally got the kids to watch The Prestige from 2006, directed by Christopher Nolan. This one's really fun. It might be my favorite Nolan film. I don't, love ranking things, but I really, really dug The Prestige. This one is starring Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale with, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, and David Bowie has a great bit part as Nikola Tesla in this one. It takes place in like the Edwardian era, and Jackman and Bale are playing competing stage magicians who each are trying to outdo the other one and come up with the greatest trick of all time. Of course, they're stealing secrets from one another, and they have this great rivalry going throughout the film. And then when Tesla shows up kind of in the middle of the movie, things take a little bit of a sideways turn, which, I mean, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, so you're expecting something slightly sideways. And I won't say what happens there, but it's very fun, pretty unexpected, and I just got to watch the film for my second time. I had watched it by myself when Sean was in the hospital, and then I got everybody to watch it last week. So it was my second viewing, and it's definitely one of those movies where once you've seen it all the way through, you watch it the second time, and there's all this stuff in the first part of the movie that, I didn't know it was foreshadowing or whatever, that really added to my experience on the second viewing. So definitely recommending The Prestige, especially if you're interested in stage magic, just as a topic. It's really cool. And if you've seen it once, maybe think about going back and watching it a second time, because I really enjoyed the second viewing on that one. And speaking of second viewings, the last thing we watched this week was Saw from 2004, directed by James Wan. Of course, it's a horror movie. It is the beginning of a very long franchise of films, which I've watched. I told you guys before, I've watched the first 5 films in the series. And basically, I feel like the first one is really, really good. And then there's a very quick drop off. And if you like the shtick of the first Saw movie, go ahead and keep watching the rest of the franchise, but nothing else in the sequels comes even close to the first one. This first one is the one where we kind of have 2 characters trapped in a disgusting, dilapidated bathroom. They're each chained to one side of the room, and they wake up there and they have to puzzle out what the hell is going on and what they're supposed to do. And there's a series of notes and tape recordings and things that tell them, little clues about what's going on, but they are really left in the dark. And then the thing goes into this really interesting, I think, non-linear narrative structure. That was good, non-narrative. Where it's like you get flashbacks from the guys in who are trapped in the bathroom, and then you get like flashbacks within flashbacks, and then meanwhile there are 2 detectives who are trying to catch this serial killer, the Jigsaw killer. So there's a lot going on in terms of storytelling, and like I said, a lot of it is non-linear, so you got to pay attention a little bit to figure out what's going on. It's not going to be totally spelled out for you. It's really interesting storytelling. Unfortunately, because it's seems to be designed for a less than average intelligence audience, the director makes up for the kind of tricky nonlinear elements with kind of way too much repeated footage, repeated messaging, and moments where things are really drawn out. And it's like, okay, I get it. Like, let's pick up the pace on actually telling me the story here. So that's a part I didn't like that much. It's got some of that kind of, flashy, like music video style editing, which I also find inappropriate in a film. And I wish they wouldn't have that in the Saw series. I think it's detrimental to the story, but again, I didn't make the movie. I'll also note that Carrie Elwes, who's one of the principal actors in this movie, is like overacting to the max in his part. It's pretty funny. He's like just like devouring the scenery, if you will, with that metaphor. But it doesn't take that much away from the movie. I still feel like, all my criticisms aside, Saw is a very solid early 2000s horror movie. And obviously super popular and kicked off this whole giant franchise that came after it. So recommend it if you like horror. It's like not too gory, but it definitely trips that line. But I will say my mom doesn't like gore, and she came to visit and watched it with us, and she enjoyed it. So if you're kind of a marginal gore person who doesn't normally pick that, I think this one's okay. But it's a little bit on the line. So, and that's what we watched in the last 2 weeks. Whew, I can't believe I made it through all of that. Not sure what we're going to watch coming up. I have some ideas about things I'd like to watch, and I'm very excited to get back out to another Portland movie theater this week. The Academy Movie Theater has reopened, and that is probably my favorite theater in all of Portland. So I am really looking forward to catching a movie at the Academy this week. Not sure what it's going to be, but I'm going to go see something. So as usual, I would love to hear what you guys have been watching down in the comments below. If you have any recommendations for us, that would be awesome. And I'll go ahead and leave it here. And thank you so much for watching. I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. Until then, stay safe and take care out there.